Hey up troops, it's A Littleton here again with another video, and on this one we're going to be... Sorry, bear with me. Can you please stop? How many times? I'm trying to make a video here. Really sorry about that. And this time we're going to be looking at all the different one-time sites. We're going to compare them over 3 different things. We're going to see which one's the best in my opinion. Now please note that I just added "in my opinion" at the end of that sentence, because it ultimately comes down to preference. Whatever you feel comfortable with, whatever you're going to get the most kills with, that's the one you should be using. I just think out of all the one-time sites, I think there's probably 3 which sit at the top of the field for me. They give you more of an advantage when it comes to holding angles, holding pixels, and it just gives you a clearer image overall when you're using the site. So let's get into the comparison on the shooting range. Fingers crossed we don't get interrupted again. Let's get stuck into it. So just quickly, these are the scopes that we're gonna compare just now. We've got Red Dot A, Red Dot B, Red Dot C, Holo A, Holo B, Holo C, Holo D, Reflex A, Reflex B, and Reflex C. Use this as a guide or a sort of reference point if you want to come back and look at what we're talking about. But yeah, these are the ones we're about to compare. Right, so we're going to use mozzie for this on the MP5 then. Let's get started with Red Dot A. In terms of the reticle, I think the reticle's okay. It's probably a little bit too chunky. It's clean enough in terms of a reticle. In terms of the sight surround or the field of view, I think this is one of the worst ones. If you're holding an angle here, for example, you can see how much of the right-hand side of your screen is covered by the scope, where the scope's sort of housing. I think it's one of the worst. In terms of holding a pixel, we're going to use this angle here, the other side of the ammo box. You can see that if we shoot the scoreboard, the scoreboard? What? If we shoot the target, why have I called that a scoreboard? It's not even close to being a scoreboard. If you shoot the target, you get a little red dot to see that you've shot it. So we can hold a pixel here. You can see this sight. I don't think it's the best for holding a pixel. It's difficult to get the angle through. You see, any normal sight, you'd be able, any other sight, sorry, you'd be able to, I think, be able to get through there. When we make the gap a bit wider, you can see we are getting it through. When you're on this angle, it's difficult to know where... It's difficult to see where it gets through there. So yeah, in terms of the reticle, not bad. The sight surround is not very good at all, and holding an angle is more difficult on tighter angles with this. Red Dot B then, I actually really like Red Dot B, and I would use it more. I just don't think I like that triangle underneath the central dot. There's something about it that just puts me off. Other than that, it's pretty clean, right? It's a bit like the 1.5, but just not 1.5, obviously. So yeah, in terms of reticle, I like it. In terms of holding an angle, remember how much of the screen was taken up by the housing on Red Dot A? It's literally the opposite on Red Dot B. You can see so much of the screen. A lot of it is taken up by that sort of, you can see the back and the base of the sight, if you will. But other than that, you can see a lot of the screen still. So if someone was to come in from the side of the screen, you're going to have no issue seeing them with this sight. What colour dots have we got? We've got blue dots. So if we try and hold the pixel angle with this sight, you can already see how much easier it is to hold with this than with the Red Dot A. You can already see we're making dots there. We've had no issue holding a pixel angle there. By the way, this isn't to say that you can't hold a pixel angle with Red Dot A. It's just harder to know where the bullets are going because the dot is so big on Red Dot A. You can see there with Red Dot B. I just actually missed 3 or 4 shots there, but we'll just ignore that. You can see we're getting through there, no issues this time. So yeah, Red Dot B, I actually really quite like it. Red Dot C, I really like the reticle on Red Dot C, and I did use this for a little while when all the one-time scopes were available. I did use this for a bit. Got orange dots this time. In terms of the reticle, it's clean. You can see what you're doing. It's easy enough to see through. In terms of holding an angle, this is pretty good as well. Not much of the screen is taken up, except for the bottom right-hand side where there's that sort of... Is it a little switch or cog that you can turn in real life to adjust the scope? I'm not sure, but most of the screen is available to be seen there. I think it gives you a good view. In terms of a holding angle, though, this is where this gets let down a little bit. It's not like Red Dot B. This is more like Red Dot A. Try and find a pixel here. You can find a way through, but it's not the best. It's still pretty difficult to do. Although we have found a way through there a couple of times. The only thing with this is, because the dot is so big, if you were holding this pixel here and somebody's head came through the corner there, sometimes the head goes behind the dot because it's that big at distance. Up close, it's great. But at distance, I think it's not as good as others. I like it, though, as well. Oh, good old Holo A. How we've missed you. This is the classic. The reticle, I think, is probably the best across all the one-time scopes. It's so clean. You can see exactly where you're aiming. It's pinpoint. It's literally pixel perfect. The only thing with this scope is where it lets you down is the housing and what you can see when you're holding an angle. If we're holding this angle here, you can actually see how much of the screen is taken up by the housing of the sight. It's quite a lot, isn't it? Compared to red dot B and red dot C, there's a lot of the screen taken up by the housing of the sight. And if someone was to come in from the left or right hand side of the screen, if we were holding an angle like this, you know, you'd struggle to see them in certain places, and that has happened to me in the past. In terms of holding a pixel though, it's absolutely great. You can see right through. The dot is so fine. It's one of the best sides to hit a one tap with. It's really, really clean. You can see everything through it. I think it's nice for recoil as well. I don't know, it's up there for me. It's definitely top 3. Holo B, and this is a lot more popular than I thought it would be, to be honest with you. In terms of the reticle, I don't think the reticle's as good as Holo A. I still think it's pretty clean though. It's a similar sort of size maybe to Holo C in terms of the size of the reticle. But yeah, I think it's nice. It looks clean. You can see what you see what you're aiming for. In terms of the housing, this is a really, really clean one to look through. You can see that not much of the image is taken up by the housing of the scope or the housing of the sight. And you can see to the left and right of it as well. Not only that, but the actual window of the Holo that we're looking through is much bigger than Holo A, so it's cleaner to look through. However, in terms of holding a pixel, again, this is a bit like red dot A. It's not the best. You can see that the dot takes up the entirety of the gap here. Now, yeah, we are getting through, but it's just not as clean. Like it covers up a lot of what you want to. If we shoot like there, for example, you can see that it covers up the entire shot. If that was someone's head, you know, it might cover that up. So it's not as clean as Holo A. If I could have what would be a dream world for me is if I could have the Holo A reticle in the Holo B housing, and that I wouldn't use anything else. But yeah, I like Holo B because it's easier to see through, but I think the reticle on Holo A is better. Listen, man. Listen here, right? If you've got all of these one-time scopes to choose from, and you pick the Cybertruck, I want you to write me a detailed reason as to why. In terms of the reticle, you know what? It's actually not too bad, is it? Like, I guess it's not too bad. The dot in the middle is fine. Like, the two lines on the outside, though, just completely throw me. Like, the dot in the middle is a nice size. You're going to be able to hold nice angles with that, but it's an eyesore. Look at it, man. It just looks horrendous. Like, to hold an angle, it's not too bad, I guess. Like, the image isn't completely obscured. It's nowhere near as good as Holo B. It's probably slightly better than Holo A. It's okay, I guess. In terms of holding a pixel, this is actually pretty decent at it because the dot's small, so you can see right through it. Much better than Holo B, but it looks horrendous. I don't think the reticle's very nice. I want to speak to people that use this through choice, man. Holo D. I've genuinely never seen anybody use this in-game. The only time I've ever seen anyone use this, it was like in the old days, people used to use it on Glass. I don't know why you would use this. This is the worst for me, in my opinion. Not only do you not have a dot to see where your shot is, it's like it's the opposite way around on this. Instead of having a dot where your shot is, you have a gap where your shot is. And I just don't think it's very good. Not only that, but this is probably one of the worst in terms of what you can see through. The actual window of the sight is tiny. The housing is huge. To hold a pixel, it's just not... I just don't think it's clean, man. I mean, yeah, we're getting through. We can see where it's going to be, I think, but I think this is one of the worst ones. Again, if you use this through choice, you've got to let me know why, man. Another classic, Reflex A. Back in the day, you were either sort of Holo A or Reflex A, weren't you? I think this is quite clean, you know. I do like it. I can see why people use it. I would prefer, though, the dot of where the shot is rather than the tip of the triangle. If anyone was wondering, by the way, and I was confused at this when I first started playing Siege, the shot doesn't hit the middle of the triangle. So if you were trying to hit... If this green dot here was someone's head, you wouldn't want to be shooting there because you'd be shooting above. You want to be shooting there, in case anyone didn't know that. Yeah, the tip of the triangle is where the shot lands. So, yeah, I don't think it's as clean as easy as a dot. In terms of holding an angle, I think this is one of the best. Yes, the sight window, if you will, is small. But in terms of the sight surround, there's still a lot you can see, and I think it's just good for holding angles. I don't know why, I like it. In terms of holding a pixel, it's not as good as others because you don't get the dot. You're looking at the tip of a triangle. Yes, we're getting through there, but it's just not clean, is it? Like, that triangle's going to cover someone's head if it's any further than... In fact, we can come across here thinking about it. Go to 30 meters. You know what? That triangle just covers that guy's head. And that's... No, it's just not as clean. It's alright, though. I don't mind Reflex A. I think it's still one of the better sights. And we come on to the baby, which is Reflex B. This is what I've been using for the last sort of 3 or 4 weeks or so. I just think it's a really clean sight. Like, I think it's because there's no housing around it that I like, but the reticle's clean. The triangle, I think you can see where you're going to be shooting the easy enough, far easier than you can with Reflex A. In terms of holding an angle, this is the best for me. Yes, you have that big chunky sort of thing on the left-hand side, but the rest of the image is completely clear. You can see so much around it, and holding the angle is so clear because the sights are just, I don't know, it's crispy, man. I don't know how to explain it. I like the way Reflex B feels. I like the way it looks. The only thing I wish with Reflex B is that you see like the top of the sight, how it's like black rather than the color of the attachment skin. I wish the top of it was the same color as the attachment skin, but anyway, that's purely aesthetic. Holding an angle with this is dead easy as well. I think it's clean. You're not going to be having someone's head covered up by the triangle, or because the triangle's just really thin and narrow. You can see down there, but it's not covered up at all. Yeah, I like Reflex. I like Reflex B, man. I think it's clean. Finally, we got Reflex C. Reflex C for me is just a worse version of Reflex A. It's exactly the same reticle, so we don't have to discuss anything there, really. It's the same big chunky triangle where the bullet hits the top of the triangle's tip. In terms of holding an angle, there's a lot of the sight surround or the sight housing, which covers a lot of the screen. I don't think the sight window is particularly good. As you can see, I'm not a fan of this sight. We're rushing through this, aren't we? Holding an angle or holding a pixel is okay. But again, the triangle is going to be covering up anyone that's at a distance. Like, look how much that covers up that guy's head. It's not ideal. I'm not a fan of it. I think it's a worse version of Reflex A. People use it because it's new and different, but yeah, I just don't think it's as good as Reflex A, personally. Thinking about it, I just said finally on Reflex C, there's one-time scope which we haven't discussed, or well, absence of one-time scope, and that's the iron sights. Now, this is difficult to talk about because it's different with every gun. I've just noticed with the MP5, the green reticle at the end is actually off-center. You see that? Like the green square on the very forward scope, the very forward iron sight is actually off-center. The whole iron sight is actually off-center, right? I've literally just found this out. So that looks off-center to me, and if I was going to be shooting, it's off-center. Right, well, we've just literally figured something out while recording a video. I'll report that to Ubisoft and see what they say, because I don't think that's right. Either it should be, the green bit should be centered up, or the width of it should be narrowed so it looks like it's in the middle. But yeah, that's definitely shooting off-center for me. Well, I genuinely didn't know that. I've literally just done that as we were going to look at iron sights. Well, this sort of poo-poos the MP5 iron sight. In terms of like the actual being able to see things while you're ADS'd, it's absolutely awful. And in terms of holding an angle, also pretty bad, especially because it doesn't shoot straight. I don't really have much to say about the MP5 iron sight. I think we all know that the daddy iron sight is the MP7. Other than that, I probably wouldn't run iron sights. The MP7 iron sight is clean, but especially when it's not shooting straight. I'm going to email Ubisoft right now. Right then, that's the comparison over. In terms of which I think is the best, for me, there's a clear top three, and that is Red Dot B, Holo A, and Reflex B. I think these three sights give you a good combination of a great reticle to see through and also a good clear field of view when you're ADSing using the sight. I will say though, an honorable mention goes to Red Dot C and Holo B, because I think both of those sights could be argued that they're good as well. But listen, as I said at the start of the video, if you're happy using Holo C or Holo D, I mean, one, I want to know why, especially Holo D, man. If anyone's out there using Holo D, you've got to let me know, because I don't believe anyone uses it. But if you're out there feeling comfortable using Holo D and you're enjoying the game and you're having fun and you're getting kills, then go for it, man, and enjoy yourself. But ultimately, it's whatever you feel comfortable with that's going to get you the kills to win the game. So there we have it. That's my thoughts on the one-time scopes at the minute. I've said it a million times. Let me say it one more time before someone goes, no, you're wrong. Reflex B isn't very good. It's completely down to opinion. Whatever you feel comfortable with, that's what you should use. For anyone that's watched this and has not heard me say this a million times on the rest of my videos, I stream on Twitch as well. Come and say hello. Every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday. Exactly the same as my YouTube name, twitch.tv/A Littleton. Come and have a look. Come and say hello and get involved. Cheers. So that's it from me on this one, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.